Walter Stadnick wasn't just a man, he was a mastermind who turned chaos into opportunity, rising from the steel city of Hamilton to become the driving force behind Canada's most feared biker gang. His story is one filled with courage, ambition, and a hunger for power that knew no bounds. Born in 1952, he was small in terms of height and grew up in a working-class neighborhood where survival often depended on how tough or clever you were. Bullied as a child and underestimated by many, Stadnick used every setback as fuel for his ambition. He didn't just want to be part of the biker world, he wanted to rule it. In the rebellious roar of motorcycles, he found the path to a life of freedom, loyalty, and power. Humble beginnings in Hamilton. Walter Stadnick's story began in the steel city of Hamilton, Ontario, a place where hard work and resilience were part of daily life. Born to Ukrainian immigrants, his family established in him a strong work ethic, although he channeled it into an unexpected path. Stadnick's childhood was far from easy. Bullied for his small size and nicknamed Nergay, he learned early on how to overcome difficulties with quick thinking and determination. This ability to persevere, even when underestimated, became one of his defining traits. In the energetic yet dirty neighborhoods of Hamilton, young Walter was drawn to the growl of motorcycle engines and the rebellious spirit of the bikers who rode them. He admired their disregard of societal norms and their fierce sense of loyalty. Motorcycles weren't just machines to him, they were symbols of freedom, power, and belonging, which were the things he craved. By his teenage years, Stadnick was already immersing himself in this subculture, spending hours hanging around garages, bike shops, and local biker hangouts. Though many initially dismissed him due to his size, Stadnick quickly earned respect for his intelligence and resourcefulness. He had an instinct for solving problems and staying calm in tense situations, qualities that set him apart in the chaotic biker world. His natural ability to form connections made him invaluable to the Hamilton biker scene, where relationships were frequently crucial to survival. Resilience amidst rejection. Walter Stadnick's rise to power in the biker world is a story of resilience born out of rejection. Early in his career, when he tried to join Canada's most elite biker clubs, his small size and understated looks worked against him. Many saw him as an outsider who didn't fit the tough, rugged image associated with outlaw bikers. He wasn't intimidating in the traditional sense, and this led to outright rejections from groups that prided themselves on physical dominance and confidence. But Stadnick was no ordinary man. While others might have been crushed by these setbacks, he used them as fuel to prove everyone wrong. Rejection didn't discourage him, it motivated him. Instead of trying to force his way into these elite clubs, Stadnick shifted his strategy entirely. He saw potential where others saw weakness, in the smaller, disorganized biker groups that had no chance of standing up to the larger clubs on their own. Stadnick reached out to these smaller groups, offering them something they desperately needed: protection and unity. He framed his vision as an opportunity for survival and growth, promising these clubs a stronger position in the biker world if they joined forces with him. He didn't employ violent force to bring them together. He used influence, charisma, and a clear understanding of their vulnerabilities. This strategy was revolutionary. Instead of fighting for scraps, Stadnick created his own path, piecing together a network of loyal clubs that eventually exceeded the biggest players. His ability to turn rejection into opportunity demonstrated his sharp mind and tireless determination, strategic mastery, and tactical skills. Stadnick's leadership of the Hells Angels was marked by his unmatched tactical insight. After officially becoming a member of the club in the 1980s, he masterminded a plan to expand the Hells Angels' presence across Canada. Stadnick envisioned a united biker empire, and he knew that achieving this would require careful planning. One of his most effective strategies was the patchover tactic, where smaller, independent clubs were absorbed into the Hells Angels. Stadnick personally traveled across the country, persuading clubs to join their ranks. These patchover ceremonies were carefully planned events, blending intimidation with promises of power and profit. For many smaller clubs, joining the Hells Angels meant survival in an increasingly violent biker world. Stadnick's approach wasn't just about increasing numbers, it was about creating a unified network. He simplified operations, ensuring that each chapter complied with the Hells Angels' strict codes of conduct. This unity gave the organization unmatched power and influence, Under Stadnick's guidance, the Hells Angels became a functioning machine capable of dominating Canada's criminal landscape. His leadership demonstrated that in a world ruled by chaos and conflict, strategic planning was the ultimate weapon. The violent biker wars of the late 1970s. The late 1970s were a period of violence in Canada's biker history, with rival clubs engaged in brutal turf wars. Quebec, in particular, became a battleground as groups like the Hells Angels, the Outlaws, and the Rock Machine fought for control. For Stadnick, this period of violence was both a challenge and an opportunity. The wars were bloody, marked by bombings, shootings, and public brawls. One infamous confrontation occurred in 1978 when the Outlaws ambushed a Hells Angels party in Montreal, leaving several members dead. The attack sparked a cycle of response that escalated over the next decade. Stadnick watched and learned from these conflicts, understanding that victory in such a landscape required more than violence. Stadnick's ability to navigate the chaos set him apart. Rather than engage in constant violence, his goal was to establish authority through strategic alliances and calculated aggression. He turned rivals into allies, leveraging their fear of being destroyed to bring them into the club of the Hells Angels. By the early 1980s, the biker wars had not only strengthened the Hells Angels, but also solidified Stadnick's reputation as a leader who could thrive in the most hostile environments. Law enforcement struggles. Despite his growing fame, Walter Stadnick remained an unreachable target for law enforcement. His cautious and calculated approach made it nearly impossible for authorities to tie him directly to criminal activities. Stadnick avoided flashy displays of power, preferring to operate behind the scenes. This low-profile strategy frustrated investigators, who knew he was a key player but couldn't gather enough evidence to arrest him. Stadnick's ability to assign tasks was brilliant. He ensured that his hands were clean, entrusting others to carry out the club's illegal activities. Whether it was drug trafficking, extortion, or arms dealing, Stadnick maintained reasonable denial. Law enforcement officials often described him as a ghost, a man who seemed to be everywhere and nowhere at once. The police faced immense challenges when seeking to penetrate the Hells Angels under Stadnick's leadership. The club was fiercely loyal, and its members operated under a strict code of silence. Wiretaps and undercover operations were unsuccessful as Stadnick rarely discussed business openly. His ability to stay one step ahead of the law highlighted the difficulties of dismantling organized crime, where leaders like Stadnick operated in the shadows, protected by layers of loyalty and fear. A lasting legacy. Walter Stadnick's legacy is carved into the records of Canada's criminal history. Under his leadership, the Hells Angels became the country's most powerful outlaw biker club, with chapters stretching from British Columbia to Newfoundland. His vision of a unified biker empire came into existence with the Hells Angels dominating Canada's underworld. Even after his arrest in 2001, followed by imprisonment in 2004 on charges including conspiracy and drug trafficking, Stadnick's influence remained. His blueprint for expansion continued to guide the Hells Angels, ensuring their dominance long after his departure from leadership. Stadnick's story is one of transformation, from a small-town biker to a national figure who reshaped Canada's organized crime landscape. His strategic brilliance and resilience left an indelible mark on the Hells Angels and the country as a whole. Despite the legal battles and controversies surrounding him, Stadnick's impact on the biker world cannot be denied. He remains a figure of fascination and fear, a man whose ambition changed the face of Canadian organized crime forever. Walter Stadnick's rise and reign over the Hells Angels were nothing short of remarkable. From the steel mills of Hamilton to the smoky clubhouses of Canada's most feared biker gang, Stadnick's journey showcased ambition that refused to be contained. Stadnick's life serves as both a cautionary tale and a chilling reminder of how one individual, armed with ambition and strategy, can change an entire criminal landscape. His legacy? It's one of chaos, control, and a story that refuses to fade away.